So the liver specialist wanted me to follow up with my gastroenterologist because he thought that the pain that I was experiencing in my stomach was something to deal with like GI and not so much from my liver. So I was initially supposed to go for my GI specialist appointment in I think it was mid-January. It was in between my first appointment with the liver specialist and then when I actually had to go for the FibroScan. So unfortunately, when I went to have my first appointment, I had COVID, so then I had to reschedule. So then I think I didn't see the GI specialist until I think February. So I go for the appointment and the doctor, she was so sweet, such an awesome lady. And so I was going over all the symptoms and everything. And so, the headaches, dizziness, stomach pain, sternum pain, fatigue. So she was saying some of the things like the headaches, she wasn't sure if it would be related to the pain that I was experiencing in my stomach. But she said, there's some things that could be neurological that manifest with the stomach, or I don't know. I didn't really understand everything that she was indicating, but I figured, I think she's going to get to the bottom of this. And the liver specialist had thought maybe my H. pylori had come back or something. So I mentioned that to her. And so she was saying that what we could do is we could check for that. We could check for ulcers or anything else that might be going on by doing the upper endoscopy. So I had done the upper endoscopy maybe about 5 years prior, and that's when the H. pylori had been found. So I had done this before. And so she scheduled it for, I think it was a few weeks later or something like that. And then after I scheduled it, she called back and she said the anesthesiologist said that because I had COVID, they couldn't do within a certain amount of days. So then we had to reschedule it for March. So at this point, the pain and everything started November 30th. So now it's December, January, February, going on more than 3 months worth of pain and just, not having my normal energy. A lot of times I'd feel when I was going through life, I felt I was walking through quicksand, just all the time. Or when you're swimming or you're walking through a pool and you just feel everything feels heavy. If you try to push your arm through the water, it just feels heavy. And that's how I was feeling every day. I just feel heavy. I just feel there's a weight on me, or I'm wearing a weighted suit or something like that. It was just everything that I was doing was so much harder to do. And just, caring about all the normal things I would normally care about, it was so much harder. It's all I could care about was I just want to get better. I'm just so sick of this. It was really weighing on me a lot, and it was just really, really hard to just, find my happiness. And I was I don't have any answers to this. Again, I don't know if I'm going to be like this forever. I don't know if maybe they'll be able to figure this out and they'll be fine. It was so many days and weeks and months of just feeling so awful. And then especially the part about, not sure about kids and all that. So at that point, the liver specialist had said that there should be no interference with the liver and having kids. So now I just kind of needed to go ahead from this doctor. And then actually around the same time, I ended up having I think it was, I can't remember when exactly it was, but I ended up, so I had the abdominal ultrasound, but then I also was supposed to have the pelvic ultrasound. So I got an appointment with my OBGYN, got that done just in case there's something going on there, and everything was normal with that. So that was another go ahead, if as long as everything's okay with the next specialist, then you're okay to have kids. So it was really coming down to the GI specialist. If they found something, if they didn't find something, then I would maybe have to pursue another route. So I was trying to figure out what is going to happen. Hopefully they find something, get this figured out. If it is the H. pylori, I know I have to have a very strong round of antibiotics. So we'll just see how this goes. So March came around finally, and I had to prep for my appointment. So it was, I think, no food or water, anything after midnight. So I go in, and my husband had to take me because you're heavily sedated and you just really cannot drive after. So you have to have somebody go with you. He unfortunately couldn't wait in the waiting room or anything because COVID. So he had to kind of be available to them on the phone within 15 minutes notice, but then he could drive. He could stay in the parking lot, or he could drive to a Starbucks or whatever he wanted to do, drive home and come back. But it just, actually that would have been too far. He had to be within 15 minutes away. So I go in, and again, I've done this before. So when I previously done it, it was that they, I'm just heavily sedated. And like, if they told me to like move this way or move that way, like I think I technically like knew what they were saying and I maybe could move, but like I couldn't feel anything. Like I think they put like a tube down your throat. Like I couldn't feel anything. Like I knew that there was like a barrier and that they had put something, but I couldn't feel anything, thank goodness. And I want to say, I think my eyes were closed, or maybe they put something over the eyes. So I was like, okay, I've done this before. It's not a big deal. So I go in and they're prepping me. I'm in like the hospital cart thing, whatever that they push. And I'm overhearing them saying to someone next to me, I think it was like the anesthesiologist, like talking to them. He's like, oh yeah, it's not gonna be a big deal. We're just gonna put you, you're gonna give you a little bit of medicine. You're gonna go right to sleep. It'll be the best sleep of your life. And I'm like, okay. I like wonder what procedure she's getting done. So they took all my things, like my cell phone and whatnot, and put them in like a little bin under the cart. And they're starting to get, I want to say, like prepped for like an IV or some sort of, I feel like some sort of something they're putting on me, maybe like a heart rate thing or something. I forget what they did. So then I think the anesthesiologist came over, and then I was like, oh, I just wanted to double check. Cause I overheard her saying to someone like, am I going like completely out, or I'm just going to be like sedated? Cause I know last time I did it was like sedated. I think that's what the doctor said. And he was like, oh no, that's what happened. The doctor came in and she said, hey, everything's like going according to schedule, we're ready to get you in soon. That's what it was. I asked the doctor. So the anesthesiologist did come over, but not yet. So the regular doctor came over, and I asked her, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to be like sedated, right? And she was like, no, you're going to be completely out, but I promise it's going to be so much better that way. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But I'm like freaking out in my head, because I'm like, I've never been completely like asleep before. I was heavily sedated when I had my wisdom teeth out, and then heavily sedated when I did the upper endoscopy previously. And so now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm being put to sleep. I don't have a will. I didn't like, John doesn't know. And I can't text him to like let him know, because now like all my things are put away and I'm like hooked up to these things. So I'm like just freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like please wake up, please wake up. So we go in there, and then we go into the room. I think I had to lay on like my left side, I think, because they have to like, and I think they put the thing on at that point, and I want to say they put a cover or something over my eyes. I can't really remember, because at that point I ended up getting like, once the anesthesiologist does the thing, I think he put it through like the IV or something. I forget. I don't know. Like that part is like so blurry to me, that memory. I think he said something like, you're gonna be very comfortable. Like, are you comfortable right now? Like, anything we can do to make better. And then I think they did the countdown. I want to say I did like 10, 9, and then like just completely out. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up and I just like shot up, and I was like, I'm late for my appointment. And then the nurse was at the end of the bed, and she was like, no, you just came out. You did fine. Everything was great. She was like, you probably won't remember any of this anyway, but I remembered everything with waking up. There was actually a gentleman who was like being pulled on like his own gurney thing aside next to me, and I remember the doctor telling him everything about like his polyps that they took out, and everything's good for him. So I was like, that's great. And then we were just talking about I just had to like take it easy. I couldn't stand up really quickly because I could still be a little bit sedated. And they called my husband to let him know that I had gotten done and that he should come to get me soon, and that the doctor was going to come speak with me shortly. So for my doctor, I had a lot of questions on my mind. So we had scheduled in March our 5-year wedding anniversary trip to Hawaii, which we had pushed out. Our 5-year wedding anniversary was in August of 2020, so we couldn't make that happen. So now it had been pushed out to March of 2021, and so we were trying so hard to go on this trip. And so with the upper endoscopy scheduled, I looked up that you're not really supposed to fly within 24 hours of having anesthesia. So originally we were supposed to leave, I think that Saturday maybe, and then I pushed it out a day, and there was 24-hour cancellation policy that had been set up. So in case we need to cancel, then we would try maybe in September-ish or some other time. But I really wanted to do the trip if we could. And then also the other thing was we had to schedule I had to like 2 COVID tests that I had to do during that week. So I had to do one that I had to do for the actual exam itself that I had to do a few days before. So that was like, I was so nervous that somehow it was going to show up like positive from before when I had it or something, but thankfully it was negative. And then I had to do another one right before, within like 72 hours of when our flights would be. So I had to do that one as well. And luckily that had to like come back at least within the time that we were supposed to leave. So one of my questions was, well, I had like a few different questions. So, you know, like one, what are the results? Do you have any? Or if you're doing biopsies, you know, when will they come back? You know, any news of H. pylori? Or I think that's one that comes back with the biopsy. I wanted to know, like, you know, what she thinks of as far as like having kids, like if like there's any issues with going on the trip, because in case I need to start some sort of a treatment right away. I think those were my biggest questions. So I sat down with her and she said, and I'm not sure if you're gonna remember this, so we'll make sure it's like, you know, you're gonna have all the paperwork, so if you need to look back on it, and your husband's on his way. And so she said, what we found is gastritis, and you have an abnormal Z-line. So I still don't 100% know what that means. But I was like, okay, like at least they found something, you know, something's going on. And then they took 4 biopsies. So I think at that point they didn't know yet about the H. pylori. I think the biopsy was what would show if I had it or not. I can't really remember though. I don't know why. I think because like I was, maybe I guess because I had all the station, all that, I didn't remember like quite everything. But I did ask her about, you know, like would it be safe to go on the trip? She said she thought it was. She was going to send me in a prescription for omeprazole. And so I asked her, you know, like, do you think there'll be any, like, I know the biopsies have to come back, but like at this point, do you think there'll be any issues with like trying to start a family? And she said she didn't think that there would be any issues. And then as far as the medication I'd be taking, the omeprazole, that I could continue to take it, but if I did get pregnant, to reduce the strength of it and like to let her know so that she could do that. So again, I didn't have the biopsy results back yet. So I didn't want to like really like have like an early celebration, but I was at least excited that we could go on our trip. And I did ask her, you know, would there be any way that I could maybe try a Mai Tai? And like, she didn't really want me to drink, and like, I get it, but like said it would be okay if I tried it. So I was like, okay, because I just always wanted to try one. And so I was really excited about that. So then I think those are pretty main things. I think she said that, you know, she would let us know about the biopsy results yet. So we didn't have those back yet. So we did decide that we would go on our trip. We like all our COVID tests were negative, so we were good. We continued to quarantine the rest of the time before our trip. And so we did leave for it. And then the biopsy results came back and they just showed the gastritis and reflux, no H. pylori or anything. She had left a voicemail while we were traveling. I could not even believe that they came back that fast. They weren't supposed to come back until like a week. So I didn't even know if we would know on our trip, but we found out like very quickly. So yeah, I mean, this was just, again, this was like so many months of trying to figure out what was going on and finally having some answers and knowing I could finally start a family. And I don't know, I feel like this was everything that I was praying for, and just, you know, finally have some relief so I could finally start on a medication after months of, I should have been on a medication like much earlier. But she did let us know that well, at least me, my husband is not in there yet. But she let me know that it could resolve, or that I've had medication for about 3 months. It could resolve in 4 to 6 weeks. So, you know, could take longer, it could be sooner. But I should start feeling a little bit better within, I think she said about like 4 weeks, but she would see how things go. And I think she said she would follow up within like a couple months. So yeah. So this has been the journey of this, and it's not quite over yet because I'm not fully healed, but this has been just amazing to have some answers. And I wanted to put this out there because, you know, if any of you or someone you know is going through this, then I don't know, maybe you can relate a little bit. And then if anyone has a liver issue, this is still something where I still have like a lot of questions. So if anyone has any advice, this is definitely something I would really appreciate having. So thank you so much for watching, and just stay tuned for more, because this is not the end of our journey. This is just the beginning. So thank you, and see you next time.